Now let's talk about articulation. What is articulation? Think about it. Articulation is simply freedom of the front half of the tongue. I breathe in. Now I've got my air column and my air buckets and everything is all set up. And then I go, la, 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 la. I don't move my chin up and down and go, la, 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 la. It's not to be or not to be. That is the question. It's to be or not to be. That is the question. So when I speak, I leave my mouth, as they say in the old school, the width of one finger. And I go, how are you today? It's so nice to see you. And after a while I get so I can articulate that and make it very distinct without having to do Pac-Man. Remember Pac-Man going like that? A lot of singers, watch the way they sing. They go, K-J-L-I-D-A-M-A-N-I-N-A. What a K-J-L-I-D-A-M-A-N-I-N-A. Se-la-la-shi-ri-ska-la. Cercare che giova al buio non si trova. Why do I have to do this the whole time? So we want to practice articulating. We go through the whole alphabet and we do all the consonants and what I call dental consonants, because your tongue actually touches your teeth. And you go, la le li le la le li le la le li le la le li le no la le li le no da de dee dee do dee dee da de dee dee do, and I breathe. Then I go, ja je ji jo jo hit George in the jaw. Joe hit George in the jaw. Why did Joe hit George in the jaw? And you can understand every word I'm saying. And I don't have to do all this. So you got to practice this. We don't speak this way. There are very few great singers who have done this all the time, but a few of them did. And a couple of them did it naturally. I mean, Farrell and U.C. Dearling, some of them did it better than other people. But Pavarotti, as great as he was, still sometimes would bite. Lo do, and he'd put his teeth together slightly and make the D. What's your name? Eddie? Eddie. Eddie, that's a nice name, right? You want to go to town? No, I don't want to go to town. Why don't you want to go to town? I don't know, I just don't want to go to town. Oh, I don't want to go to town. I don't want to, and you can sing all of this without having to chew and bite and all of that. If this is free, and this is free, and the tongue is free. So we're back to where we started, square one. Take a breath in a way that every time you breathe, it relaxes your throat. So I go, no, my throat's relaxed, look. La 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 na 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 da 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 ra 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 ra. Why would I do anything to make this harder? See, breathe. Now, what does the larynx do when I'm breathing? We'll do a whole section on the larynx, but every time I shouldn't lower my larynx like that because you can hear it causes a big muscular reaction in my throat. And I can sing that way, but guess what? I'm back now. I'm in a lyric baritone repertoire. And it's a phony lyric baritone. It can't compete with the real baritones. But the minute I don't do that, I go, ah. So if I breathe and have enough sucking in power, what Caruso called the power of the respiration, if I can really breathe in, my larynx went down without me having to flex a muscle. See that? And I want my larynx low because that's how I access the air in my air bucket and set it in vibration. And the bigger the drum, the bigger the sound. That's because the ambient air responds when all this air inside my body vibrates. So I breathe. And I say, la, 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 la. How do I do that? What am I doing? I'm not doing anything up here. What am I doing except breathing? La la li le na le li le da le di di da 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 ra 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 ri ri re re di weiß hat dieser Knaben, right? Doch mich umgarnen finstre Mächte, mich fast Verzweiflung voll geschwart. And I do my best. Some of the more dramatic music you want to, you want to keep the emphasis, but ideally you shouldn't do it. I worked with Laos Melchior also for one winter, And he and Delmonico, both the voice was so immense. And neither one of them did this. And the king of them all was Helge Rosveg, Danish tenor, who made, they called him the second Caruso, they called him the Golden Sword. He had all these, because his voice was a phenomenon. I met him when he was 70 in the theater in Munich. And he was historical. I knew all about him. And I asked if I could come study with him. He said, yes. So I spent an entire winter studying with him. And you can't believe the voice this man had. He had a voice for 20 people. But he was a yogi, practiced advanced yoga for 55 years and never canceled even a rehearsal. And sang 7 days a week. He used to rehearse in the morning, make records in the afternoon, and sing a performance every night. The biggest repertoire in the world. Then he'd turn right around and sing Barbara Seville or Elixir of Love or something really light. I mean, he was a phenomenon. He really was a phenomenon. So, but he always said, I said, what do you attribute this incredibly longevity? First of all, 55 years of singing. I meet you on stage as a performer, and then you sung every day of your life. And he said, yoga. He did advanced yoga. The only thing that was weird about him was he was married 8 times. He said, my wives got sick of it. I would come home from a performance late at night and do an hour and a half of yoga. Then I'd get up in the morning, do an hour and a half of yoga. I did 3 hours of yoga a day. I did it all the time. Then I went to the theater, and I was never home. So it was never the wife's fault. It was always my fault. Well, what can you do? He sang and had a fabulous career. And sang, and the voice was just tremendous. You cannot imagine the size of the voice. It was gigantic. Yeah, he used to say to me, now don't try to do this like me. He said, I've got the breathing 55 years, he said. So now we're back to the air bucket business. The size of the air bucket decides what you're going to sound like. Okay, more to come.